Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
They don't lose. This football team does not lose. Mission accomplished. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. I don't know what the offensive game plan was. Miles Sanders didn't touch the ball until about 6 minutes left in the first half. They were taking shots downfield nonstop. They were forcing the ball, it seemed like, to Quez Watkins, 3rd and 2. They're trying to go deep to him. I don't know. I don't know what their philosophy was. Well, I do know what it was. It was take shots nonstop down the field. That's why A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith were able to have the numbers that they had, but it didn't need to be that way. Okay, it's not as if the Bears can really stop you on the ground, but they have holes in their secondary. You could have slashed them through the ground as well, but ultimately, the Eagles did their job. They won while Dallas fell apart against Jacksonville, and boy, oh boy, does Micah Parsons look even more dumb than he did before. The Eagles are in control. And they know how to win games that they're not supposed to win. This is a trap game. And you're not supposed to win a trap game when you turn the ball over 3 times. And by the way, you missed a field goal too. It's not a recipe for success. But when you have Haason Reddick dominate the football game the way that he did, that was a masterful performance. He was everywhere. He was beating his matchup non-stop. And honestly, when there was the fumble and then the fumble recovery, I thought Avonte Maddox made the play and he just jumped on the ball by the sidelines. But no. He was the one to actually make the ball loose. He was doing everything. And if Fletcher Cox could just jump on the football after the first forced fumble, then the Bears don't even get on the scoreboard the way that they did for one of their earlier possessions, which made me sick because I'm like, yo, Fletch, come on, man. Can't happen. Unacceptable. Fall on the football, dude. But they did enough, and that's why I label this for Jalen Hurts a bit of an up-and-down game because, you had the one interception, which was brutal. The second one, I don't know, maybe Quez Watkins didn't break the way he was supposed to break, which forced Jalen Hurts to throw the football, which looked like right into the chest of a defender. I mean, maybe it was possible that he could have broke a little bit cleaner and things would have played out differently, but once again, why are we looking at Quez Watkins as intensely as they did throughout the process of trying to score? It's like, yo, dude, it doesn't need to be Quez. What are we doing here? Like, why are we thinking Quez is a top-tier dude? It felt that way throughout. And Miles Sanders, that's not the time to fumble. Now, he cleaned up a ton of fumble issues that he has had in the past, but not then, dude. Not the time and spot for that to happen. But whenever something goes south, this team finds a way. The up for Jalen Hurts, you hear a lot of his teammates speaking after the game. Devonta Smith, he checked at the line of scrimmage, realized that there was a chance to make a special play, and then he dropped it right into the breadbasket. There were a couple of those for sure. So while there were some ugly ones, there was also some pre-snap recognition, which was insanely important. For example, the run right up the middle. You see that a blitz is coming. You could sense it. Hey, I like what we got here. Bang. Untouched, right up the middle, finds the end zone. He did have 3 touchdowns, to be fair. He threw for over 300 yards, too. So there was some good in there. Some nice passes over the middle. Get the ball in his playmakers' hands. Devonta and AJ. Some slants that were very important. Started off slow. Started off sloppy. Weather? Cold as hell. And Jalen Hurts even stated after the game, I haven't played in anything like that. My hands were numb. I couldn't get comfortable early on. But they grinded and they found a way. You know you're a damn good special team when the games you're supposed to fall, you win. And don't tell me that they weren't supposed to fall this game just because the Bears only have a couple of wins. That's not what it's about. As you can see in this league, anyone can win at any point. You have 3 straight road games. You have your biggest rival running their mouth all week long, saying stupid things to the media. That plays a role in looking ahead. Not because you want to, But it's just how it is being a human. You despise them. They're running their mouth nonstop. You know you play them next. You know how big. If they could have beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, then it's a totally different message and a totally different tone heading into Dallas next week. So this is a trap game. You have 2 division games, 3 straight road games. And this 3-win team who's piss poor defensively in the pass game and the run game is in the middle of it. That's the biggest cliche trap game in the world, and they played that way. But for you to still be able to win when you need it, A.J. Brown down the right sideline, special. He had 181 yards. Devonta had 126 yards. Now, to be fair, I don't think it needed to be that way. Miles Sanders should have touched the ball more. Especially, look, it's freezing. The quarterback said himself, I couldn't, feel my hands. So you would think to give your quarterback a little bit of leverage here, just throughout, how cold it is out there, why not hand it off? Why not let your offensive line maybe go to work a little bit? So you're not forcing the quarterback to throw as much. But hearing from the head coach afterwards, he went right to how many yards the 2 receivers had and said, look, what are we talking about here? That's not exactly what he said verbatim, but that's sort of what he was saying in response to maybe the critics and the criticism of what the game plan was. Trust me, this wasn't the only way to go about business. While it is sexy to see those numbers afterwards. Speaking of sexy, how about when they got towards the goal line? Cam Jurgens is lined up as a receiver. 2-point conversion. They shift the offensive line. And then he doesn't even get touched on the 2-point conversion. Is it a QB sneak? Is it not a QB sneak? Oh, man, it was fun. I don't know who it was. I believe it was Landon Dickerson. I'm not necessarily fully sure, but when they did draw the flag, you got guys celebrating and dancing. This bunch is just different, man. This bunch is hysterical, the way that they go about their business. But you know what? When it's all said and done, Hargrave, couple of sacks, Josh Sweat, really awesome season from him so far. But I look at Haason Reddick, and, I think he deserves majority of the praise of what happened today. Outside of just what the numbers say and the sacks say, he was everywhere. And it's a shame because he did wrap up Justin Fields for one. It was before one of their touchdowns. It was that, it was long. Was it second down or third down? I forget exactly what down it was. But he wrapped him up. That might have been, let me look at the sequence. Because if I remember correctly, that might have been right after Fletcher screwed it up. Yeah, it was. Haason forced the fumble. Come on, Fletch, I have with 3 exclamation points in my notes. And the next play, Haason misses and Fields kills you. You thought he scored the touchdown, but he stepped out of bounds, and then they had to, get in the end zone in a different way. But he wrapped him up. You're like, oh, he's doing it again. Anyway, moral of the story for me is I thought Haason Reddick was a dog today. And this guy is insane. Insane. Now, this could be me just reaching. Okay, this could be me just looking for something. But we know Jonathan Gannon in the past has always been a talking point, and we didn't really like the way that he handles his business when it comes to schematics, and he plays soft and this and that. Well, I listened to Haason Reddick speak, and one of the things he brought up is JG spoke to the players and said, what do you guys want to run? What are you guys feeling out there? How does it look to you? And is that a sign? And maybe I'm not reaching. Maybe it was stupid for me to even bring that up because maybe the answer is yes. Because I at least thought that he was a stubborn dude. That he was a stubborn coach that said, I want to play the way I want to play. I want it to look the way I want it to look. But if we're seeing one of the stars of the defense, one of the veteran players state that JG's kind of like, hey, what are you guys feeling? Let's run what you think works. That's a big sign for me out of the defensive coordinator that I criticized heavily for a majority of his tenure here. I think that's huge. I think that's massive. I think that's part of the reason why maybe you're seeing this. Is Nick Sirianni's way of business maybe bleeding into the defensive coordinator a bit? Seeing the way Nick handles the offense, seeing the way that Steichen handles the offense, the communication factor with his players, seeing how much that does resonate throughout the locker room and how much that really does have everybody together on the same page and with these positive vibes. Just throwing it out there. I don't know. I don't know if that was because of Nick Sirianni. I don't know if Jonathan Gannon was always like this, but just kind of wanted to establish his brand first, and then from there you can branch out. I don't know. But my eyebrows raised when I heard that. My eyebrows perked up a bit because I didn't expect it, because I didn't know that was part of his identity. But good for JG, because I think that goes a long way, especially when you have a lot of guys out there who've been around the block. First drive, though, you're getting Avonte Maddox, Kayvon Wallace, Milton Williams. It's like, okay, I guess it's going to be one of those days. Everyone's going to go off. Seeing the way Avonte Maddox is lined up, it was like, all right, okay. But then as everything kind of progressed, yeah, it got a little crazy. But big part of it is, for Jalen Hurts, I think the pre-snap recognition is a big part of the big picture of Jalen Hurts. And there's times constantly where he sees it, he changes things, and then the Eagles take advantage because of what his eyes saw. That goes a long, long way when we're talking about the ceiling of what this kid can do. It's never going to be easy. Well, maybe not never. It's not always going to be easy. What are you made of when it's super cold? When you're battling? Hell, you thought the Eagles were done and they were going to wrap it up. There's a broken play. Darius Slay kind of gets stuck. Justin Fields throws a wide open touchdown pass, and then you got to deliver again. It's not over. Make the big play. Just when you think you have enough wiggle room, you don't. Bears are fighting back, even through a lot of injuries. Speaking of injuries, though, I was surprised that Dallas Goedert wasn't back. On Saturday, we got that news. Oh, all right. How much did that mess up maybe what their plan was? Did they expect to have him back? And then there's a reason why they didn't have him back. So then that screwed up some stuff, and that's why it was wonky. They probably wanted to throw the football a bunch anyway, with or without Dallas Goedert. That's probably where they thought they'd be able to win most of their matchups. But for me, I still kind of find that puzzling. Their first game without Dallas Goedert, I think, was probably one of their worst when it comes to what they were thinking for the plan. Sometimes you lose because of execution. Game plan, fine. Execution, awful. I thought for the coaches offensively, whatever they dialed up plan-wise was not very sharp. That's why I even give the players more credit, because it's hard to win when that's the case. Let's be honest. Let me tell you this. Your offensive coaches get a D-, a D, on preparation for the game schematically. And you still win 25-20? Even after you turn the football over a couple of times? And I think that coexists. If you're not throwing the football a bunch, does the Quez Watkins interception happen on the second one? I do believe that there's a combination here. There's a cause and an effect. You miss the field goal. That's why you go out and get a big player like A.J. Brown. Hit him with the slant over the middle. Get Devontae the ball. Let him run with it a little bit as he cuts across the field, hits the right sideline, and flips the field. Hey, special teams. Special teams. Boston Scott with the return for over 50 yards. Well, that over 58 yards to be exact. That sets up a touchdown run. Or a touchdown run. Those details matter. You weren't getting that in previous games. I think we got to continue running and working with Boston Scott as a man to return. But all around, as I say each and every week, I'm extremely proud of what they accomplished today. They lost one football game to this point. Do you know how many teams would have probably fallen to Indianapolis, would have fallen today to Chicago? Now you have 3 losses on your resume instead of 1. Not that that's abysmal by any means. You'd still be labeled a very good football team. But if you're looking at that bye week, and you're looking at securing Lincoln Financial Field through the NFC, which could be the difference in getting all the way to the poll, it matters. So while Jalen Hurts wasn't amazing, took some hits I didn't like, I think he forced one to A.J. Brown on 4th down. Was Kenneth Gainwell open? Now, maybe he was the last progression, so as he's looking through, but it seemed like he targeted A.J. Brown early, and that's where he was going to regardless. But missed Kenneth Gainwell open. I didn't think it was his best decision-making game all around. But I don't want to downplay what some of those long throws were, because he did drop some dimes, and a decent amount of them, too. And that's why you go get skill players who can beat defenders and crush your soul. Big body A.J. Brown, moving like that. Devonta Smith, high point in the football, laughing at the coverage. It can even be amazing coverage sometimes. Doesn't matter. Put it in a spot where your playmakers can go make a play. But it's not just that, because a lot of these are legitimate dimes, too. But A.J. Brown's big body sure does make a difference. 181 yards, 126. I was chopping it up before this game, thinking, all right, is Devonta Smith going to land 1,000 yards this season? And we started to do the math and think about, well, if they don't play the last game of the season, how many yards does he need in these next upcoming games? Probably to that Saints game. And if they do what they're supposed to do, it might not even be a full Saints game. And that's a discussion for another day. When you rest guys, with how many games left. They also have to make sure with a bye, if they do land it, which, damn it, they should at this point. They better. They got to win one more football game. But how do you handle that, knowing there's a bye week to keep them fresh? But you don't want to get anybody injured. Like I said, that's a whole different discussion for another day. But when factoring in, can Devonta Smith get that 1,000 yards? It's like, hey, he's got to do this, X, Y, and Z. Wow. 126 yards. All right. Phone calls. Let's do it.
You know, Birds, it wasn't an easy win. It wasn't a beautiful win. It was pretty ugly. But considering it's 2 of 3 straight road games with weather conditions under 10 degrees, and the Bears have nothing to lose, they're already eliminated from the playoffs, I'll take the win. Hurts looked ugly, looked terrible early on, but he stepped it up, figured out a way to win. That's just what he does. That's what an MVP does. 13-1 with Dallas losing. We don't even need to beat them next week. We just got to win one more game. But I'm never going to go whoop their ass because they suck.
Hey, they're running their mouth a lot, aren't they? Those fans, too. It's a totally different shift in the social media world now, isn't it? All those Cowboys fans, they're always in, especially after last week, right? Why are you focusing on what Micah Parsons said? He didn't even say anything that bad. Oh yeah? Then why did he have to make a statement publicly after everything? Normally, if you don't do anything wrong, you don't have to pull back what you said. You don't have to say, well, what actually happened was they started to use clips that... You said what you said. You said something stupid. You were ridiculous. You made a bad decision. We all make bad decisions. But you don't have to say anything if you make a good decision. If you say something... Have you ever seen someone do the right thing and then a couple days later have to go back and go, you know what? I just did the right thing. No! It only happens when garbage spews out of your mouth. And for you to do that and to lose from Douglas Peterson. Oh, Dougie P. I knew you still love Philadelphia. I knew you still had that Philadelphia blood in your veins. That was massive, man. Massive. Massive. I can't wait. I can't wait. Christmas Eve, Saturday night, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be unbelievable. Those fraud-ass Cowboys. Just a bunch of clowns. Them and their entire fan base. Now, I don't know when that shift happens. And to be fair, them losing, it's kind of like, yeah, you kind of ruined it, right? You had something there. You did. If they beat the Jags, think about it. Would I be questioning when the shift happens to start focusing on the Cowboys? It would be right now. It would have been an hour ago. It would have been maybe the second that game ended in Chicago. Instead, well, don't get me wrong. There is a bit of me that's ready to rock. It lost its value because you blow. Because you're not good enough to keep up your end of the bargain to make this more important. You absolute losers.
13-1, man. Feels great. Love this team. Was a little ugly, but, a win is a win. Not really sure about the game plan. It's just, I just don't understand it. I don't know. They come out with the win, but it just didn't make any sense to me why you weren't, trying to run the ball a lot more and then with these weird plays. But regardless, Dallas coughs it up. Excellent. Great for us. And the defense looked great today, so that's awesome. Pass rush looked great, and that's going to be a huge weapon against Dak, or you're going to shut him down. So
the pass rush is incredible. Incredible. And you're getting it from so many different players. Josh Sweat, kudos to you. And Javon Hargrave? Yeah. Yeah. You can't stop them. You can't. When you see Haason Reddick just using his arms to create the separation with the burst, he's back at Justin Fields within seconds of the snap. And I even remember looking at some of the other stuff throughout some of the other games. Even let's say Fletch gets a sack. Haason Reddick is setting the edge, which is forcing the quarterback to have to step a certain way and stay within a certain lane, and the lane is filled by a big man named Fletcher Cox. So even if he's not necessarily the one that gets credited with the sack or gets credited with anything on the stat sheet, it's what he's forcing the other team to do, what he's forcing the quarterback to do, where he's forcing him to go. And that's why this defense is clicking, because they all have their roles, they all have their lanes, and 99% of the time, everyone's doing what they're supposed to force it to play out. So if he's just setting the edge, now bang, somebody else is cashing in because of what Haason did. Everywhere. He's absolutely everywhere. I can't even express it enough what he was doing out on that football field. I keep going back to that play. I thought Avonte Maddox got the ball loose and put it on the carpet. But you watched the replay, and somehow Reddick was the one to force that after he forced one earlier. He forced one earlier. It's like, Fletch, get on the damn football, dude. This pass rush is eating. And in case you forgot, okay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to be back at some point, which helps with the interception rate. But when the front is eating like that, and your secondary consists of Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, I even like what Marcus Epps has turned into in the safety spot. TJ Edwards, Kaiser White, scary. I was asked a question, and I joined John McMullen, who covers the Eagles for Jacob Media, and Jody Mack. And they were asking me, who is the leader, a big leader in the defense? And talk about just like that guy that stands out to you in the defense. And weirdly enough, I actually said TJ Edwards because, and this was before Haason Reddick doing this. If I was asked today, I'd probably say Reddick, whether that's biased of what we just witnessed or not. But you think of the the defensive line, a lot of guys got 2 sacks. It's not as if one guy, like I said, I was asked this before today's game. I thought today Haason was the moneymaker, even though statistically speaking, other guys had similar numbers from him. But let's look at it previously, a lot of guys have eaten up front. Darius Slay's awesome in his number one cornerback role. But TJ Edwards, Marcus Epps, these guys coming along is the difference in this defense not having a hole. Nate Gerry getting exploited from tight ends nonstop in years past. You don't have that issue anymore. Those players stepping up and not just being good. Like TJ Edwards is making plays nonstop. That's something that changes the full-on brand of what they can do. Now I'm probably leaning more towards Haason. But it's not crazy to look at those two and just talk about what that means to everything here and how that molds everything together, if that makes sense. And who would have thought? Who would have thought that we'd be talking about those two guys the way I just did? Crazy world.
All right, so we're going to throw out some analogies here. This was the classic trap game, and to use a college basketball analogy, the Eagles survived in advance. Just a goofy game from start to finish. A lot of weird things happened. But I will say this. If I'm Miles Sanders, I'm not only pissed, but I'm a little confused. Like, why was I not a part of this offense at all? The Eagles' game plan, you know, Hunter, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if that didn't have a Laurie Roseman fingerprint on it, I don't know what is. I mean, I'm no weatherman, but when you've got 24-mile-an-hour winds, why is the only game plan you come up with throwing 40-yard bombs? Like, just strange to me. But again, a win is a win, and to sweeten the day and end it on a high note, watching Doug Peterson and the Jaguars beat the Cowboys, icing on the cake.
I don't know if this was a Lori Howie thing, and trust me, I do remember the day that they won in Green Bay. Jordan Howard had a ton of touchdowns, and they worked the ball on the ground really well, and those guys weren't happy with Doug Peterson. I will never forget those moments and all of the topics that we talked about throughout those couple of weeks after. I mean, it was bizarre for sure. You know what? I do believe that there's a part of Nick Sirianni that really wants players to hit certain marks. Miles Sanders having 1,000 yards. Miles Sanders scoring touchdowns after not scoring last year was definitely something that stood out to the head coach that he would want to change the narrative. Well, it seemed like that was the case. I think that there was an emphasis on getting Devonta Smith specifically in a spot where that 1,000 yards is possible. Because that's how he thinks about his players. He believes the milestones individually, the statistics, they value that big time. And I wouldn't be surprised. If you want to lean Howie and Laurie, I don't personally. I think it's more Sirianni wants his players to hit certain marks and to feel a certain type of way. So let's get him in a great position to get those 1,000 yards by chucking the football downfield a bunch. That's what I think. That's what my gut tells me. He has a sensitive spot for his players. If people think Miles Sanders won't score touchdowns, we will make sure he scores touchdowns. If Devonta Smith can be a 1,000-yard receiver, let's make Devonta Smith a 1,000-yard receiver. At least let's put him in a great position possible to try and land that by the end of the season, because I'm sure they were thinking the same thing we are, whether they admit it or not. Probably won't have a last game of the regular season if we do what we're supposed to. We might not even have a full game against the New Orleans Saints. So what can we do? Let's chuck it. Would that surprise anybody? Because it wouldn't surprise me at all. At all. Not even close, to be honest. But yeah, that's it. That's what I got. That's all I got for you. Thanks. You guys are the best. I love you. What, 13-1? It's pretty damn good, huh? I think so. We'll see what they do next week. We're going to be talking about it all week long. Beautiful victory for your Birds. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'll catch you guys on the next one.